I decided to stay with Frank after meeting up with them. It was more like stumbling upon them in the middle of nowhere, but, you know. Is that Sella? She's usually more talkative. What happened? Meanwhile, I got to meet up with Chelsea. The moment I'd asked her a very personal question, she asked,
"What the fuck is Huey Lewis in the news?"
Yeah. She's actually really nice once you get to know her. She's so cool. Meanwhile, we decided to go back home. Frank and Jose were with me when we did.
Holy shit, that Halloween comic was bad. I can't believe Ian Flynn would write that shit.
Ian didn't write that comic. That was written by a completely different person. Hey, Nebz, you've been thinking about making IDW comics. What direction would you take?
You motherfuckers always talking that old Keith Sweat shit. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. You ain't gonna do a goddamn thing. And ML, when you gonna get your business? Huh?
We don't know any ML. You mean Mario and Luigi or something?
Yeah, just like I thought. You ain't gonna do a goddamn thing. But I tell you what I'm gonna do. Hear me? I'm gonna go over there and get them Koreans some more of my money. The fuck out my way. Goddamn, it's Miller time, motherfuckers.
Who was that guy?
Why do he sound like Pops from House Party?
There's something about that last thing that guy said. Miller time. What did he mean by that?
He seems like the alcoholic type. You think he was going over there to get some Miller Lite?
You don't know. Maybe he went to the comic book store to read one of Frank Miller's dribbles.
That's stupid! A guy like that wouldn't read comic books anyway. They'd watch Sin City instead!
You know, you've been going on about this Spawn guy all week. Want to talk about him?
I did want to talk about that Batman Spawn crossover, but it's only one comic. I can't dedicate a whole video to one comic.
Well, get this. There's 3 Spawn and Batman crossovers, and the third one came out like a couple years ago.
I beg your pardon? Ah, yes. 1994. Spike Lee released his latest joint, Crooklyn. Tupac Shakur starred in the film Above the Rim and was involved in a lot of controversy. The Sony PlayStation was on the horizon, the very original Tekken was released in Japan, and Insomniac Games was just formed. Oh, and also, there's this one little thing. The comic industry was in deep shit. One of the very reasons as to why lied on Image Comics and one of its founders, Todd McFarlane. Originally, Todd McFarlane was merely an illustrator for comics like Batman, Incredible Hulk, and the Amazing Spider-Man series of comics. He was very popular. Todd wasn't all that happy with his success, though. He wanted to write comics, not just draw them. That's why Marvel released a new, ongoing Spider-Man comic, just called Spider-Man. Today, it's referred to as the adjectiveless Spider-Man, yes, way before Dan Slott and Mark Bagley did it in 2022. But Todd here wasn't that happy with all this either. He wanted to write, draw, and own his comics 100%. Therefore he, fellow Spidey artist Eric Larson, and X-Men artist Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Wales Portasio, and Rob Liefeld, formed Image Comics. It was controversial, it was big, it was daring, it was brave. It was a lot of bigger words that I can't necessarily pronounce. Fun fact, another Image founder, Jim Valentino, would later go on to illustrate Archie's Sonic the Hedgehog comics. If you saw my last video, he did it poorly, in my opinion. Todd's comic was Spawn. Spawn was a mercenary, murdered by his friend and current Youngblood member Chapel. He was brought back to life by the devil, Malboja, and watched upon by the Violator, a clown with a true form lying underneath.
You made a deal, you stupid son of a bitch. You made a deal with Malbolgia. You cut a deal for your soul.
Spawn was massively popular. The comic is now the longest running comic owned by its original creator, beating out Cerebus in 2019. Thank God, Cerebus' creator needs fucking help. Naturally, Todd got some big names to write the book, including Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, and the most important writer in this case, Frank Miller, a comics writer and artist known for his serious storytelling and realistic settings. He wrote and drew the many critically acclaimed comic books and graphic novels, including Sin City, his run on Daredevil, the Daredevil miniseries Man Without Fear, which was drawn by John Romita Jr., and most importantly in this case, his Batman work, The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One. Nowadays, you know Frank Miller as a shitty writer, cause he sucks now. What the fuck happened between Year One and Spawn Batman? Well, let's talk about it. I don't know why the fuck this crossover came to be. All I knew is that for some reason, Todd had enough power to bring in Frank Miller to write the script for his Batman crossover while he drew. The colors and letters were done by his collaborators at the time, Tom Orzechowski, a letterer most known for his work on Chris Claremont's X-Men run and other X-related titles, and also Sonic X #5, which was the first work that Tracy Yardley drew for that was published. And Steve Olive, a colorist who, before Spawn, was most known for his revolutionary coloring techniques in the English localization of Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. Olive would color the comic with his digital coloring team, Ollie Optics, and he would do so also for the Max, Youngblood, and other many Image comics. The comic is considered a middling point between Miller's Batman Year One and his later work on All-Star Batman and Robin, specifically due to how he writes Batman here. In some pages, Todd draws Batman's cape as if it's a giant blanket clouding over Gotham City and New York, and in others, he's drawn like the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Trust me, there are a lot of other criticisms to go around about this book, but the main thing that saves it is that it looks so fucking cool and awesome and radical, and all that Super Mario World lingo, alright? It looks so fucking cool! Batman dies in this comic, and is then brought back to life. It's fucking bonkers! Cyborg homeless people, a humanitarian blatantly being the fucking villain. Holy shit! It's awesome! But it's also fucking stupid. But also, it's awesome! I love it personally, but I can see why people don't. Oddly, in the 90s, there was this mandate that there had to be 2 intercompany crossovers involving the characters in question. DC would do one, and Image would do one. The Image book being Spawn/Batman, the big one. And the other one would be called Batman Spawn War Devil. Why? An example would be the J.M. DeMatteis writing both Spider-Man Batman crossovers. Both of them are good, but I prefer Spider-Man/Batman instead of Batman/Spider-Man. The next crossover, called Batman Spawn War Devil, as I mentioned, was written by all the Batman writers at the time: Doug Moench, Chuck Dixon, and Alan Grant, with art and traditional colors by Klaus Janson, who inked The Dark Knight Returns, and a lot of Frank Miller's Daredevil stuff. And the digital colors would be by Steve Buccellato. The letters would be by Todd Klein. It's boring, it's sketchy looking, and honestly, I don't like it all that much. It's weird like the first one, but it's also fucking boring, as I said. A lot of dialogue here. I might be the dialogue type, but I want to see more weird stuff like that other one. In the comic, a person that Spawn killed, Simon Vesper, is alive again, and some random shit happens, like Batman finding Spawn again, which this is a completely different universe from the last one, so there's no mention of them meeting before. And going back to Spawn Batman, that takes place in the same universe as Batman Year One, All-Star Batman and Robin, The Dark Knight Returns trilogy. So, it's a little crazy, don't you think? Simon Vesper holds a press conference, a bunch of fucking corpses come back to life, a big-ass demon is the final boss. Spawn and Batman win. Yay! Outside of comic pop, I think I'm one of the few people to cover this part of Batman and Spawn's history. DC's part of the crossover is super boring, but Image's part is famous for a bunch of crazy shit, like Batman throwing a fucking batarang in Spawn's face. That's so cool, but it's also so fucking stupid. It's like a yin and yang type deal. After these, there would never be a Spawn and Batman crossover again. There was going to be one in 2006, but that never came out. Except it did. 2022 hit, and we got this fucking thing. This time, it's only called Batman Spawn. It was written and inked by Todd McFarlane, but drawn by Greg Capullo, a very well-known Batman and Spawn comic artist. He co-created Batman's Court of Owls with writer Scott Snyder. The art here is really good. It's Greg fucking Capullo! The lettering uses the 90s Spider-Man font for some reason, but I'll live with it. As for the writing, my only experiences with Todd's writing was the first 15 issues of Spawn, and his adjective-like Spider-Man work. So forgive me if I'm not very much an expert on Todd's writing, which is just okay. It's only just okay. And I think it's because he's still got that 90s mindset where the art is more important than the story. As a writer, he's got a good understanding of Batman, and his Spawn was the same as it ever was. Cool is what it was. Oh, and for some reason, this Joker is the same one who cut his skin off and sewed it back together. Clearly because of Scott Snyder's run. I never read Scott Snyder's run. I did hear good things about it. But I don't want to read a story where the Joker sewed his fucking face off and cut it and fucking sewed it back on. Face off. My god, that's creepy. Anyway, a lot of shit happens before this does. This happens. It looks cool. Then Father Kilgore, aka one of the characters in the Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman superhero, Haunt, makes a cameo. And so does the fucking Violator. His next move will be his, he says. If I ever fucking read it, these crossovers are uneven. One is good, despite the flaws of Frank Miller. The other is boring and wordier than a fucking Archie Sonic reboot comic. And the other is fucking awesome. I'd love to see Spawn crossover with other superheroes. No, Ken Penders, that does not count as a fucking crossover, you cuck. Anyway, I'm gonna head off now. Later.
Everyone is blind, they were looking for a leader. We lost our faith and we need someone to guide us. Right now it's so easy to be deceived. I'm finding my soul to reach to new levels, reach the mountaintop so